Okay, to all Moadim L'Simcham Tahavi, and and we saw yesterday that there's certain things there's no din of Aina in, so there won't be Aina in Karka, in Avadim, in Shtarois, right? So there won't be a din of Aina in there. The Gemara is an interesting shaila on Daf Nun Zayin Amid Aleph. Says the Gemara 3 lines down. Amar Rava Amar Rav Chasa, Boy Rav Ami. Aina ein lahem bitul mek. Aina ein lahem. These things, avodim, shtaris, and hegdish v'chahena, bitul mekach. Aina they don't have, but bitul mekach yesh lahem. But they have a din of bitul mekach. Just reviewing, aina less than a sixth, the deal is on. Aina exactly the deal is on. You make up the difference. More than a sixth, the deal is off. Right. So when it says these things, does it mean that they don't have a din aina? But if it's more than a sixth, the deal is off. Ayin lahem, or no. In other words, if the person accepted it, then it's okay. In other words, if it's a dava midah of a mishkal of a minion, if it's something is a set amount and you're fooling somebody, that's not our discussion. Our discussion is where you thought it was a certain amount and you overpaid, right? You overpaid. We said in that case of overpaying where aina exists, then there's bittul mekach. So we want to know when these said these dinim. Is they're only out of the ballpark of the 1/6, but they would be in the ballpark of the mekach tois, or no, they're out of the ballpark completely, and therefore it would not be a mekach tois, and the deal would still be on. Again, one more time. We said these are out of the ballpark. When we said they're out of the ballpark, we said they're out of the ballpark of Aina. Does that mean they're out of the ballpark of exactly a sixth? But regarding the latter din, the din of more than a sixth that mekach is batal, they are in, and therefore, if you go ahead and overcharge, the deal will be off. Or no, or do we say they're totally out of the ballpark, and even if you overcharge by karka, for example, the deal would still be on? That's the shaila. That's the shaila. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Nachman, Hoda Amar Rav Chasa. Rav Chasa then said, Pashit Rav Ami, Aina ein lahem. They don't have Aina. But bittul mekach yesh lahem. They're still in the ballpark of bittul mekach, and therefore, if it's overcharged or undercharged by a sixth, the deal will be off. Right? This is important. The next one, names are important. That was Rav Chasa. That was Rav Ami, and this is Rabbi Yoina Oimer. Rabbi Yoina says, "Ahegdeshais." The din of mekach batal is going on hegdish, and certainly on what and on kachim on hegit. Rabbi Yirmiyah Oma akarkois. Only on karka is then a bittul mekach, right? But not on hegdish. So both Rabbi Yoina and Rabbi Yirmiyah said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that this din of in our Mishnah that of bittul of Aina would not apply to hegdish, but the din of mekach twice would apply to hegdish. Whereas Rabbi Yirmiyah says it would apply to karka, but it wouldn't apply to hegdish. They don't have a din of Aina, but the latter din, bitul mekach, an overcharge of more or less than a sixth, yesh lehem, not less than a sixth, more than a sixth, then yesh lehem. They would have a din of bitul mekach. Now, Manda Amma Hegdish Shois, Rabbi Yoina, who said his din on hegdish, kol shkein on karka. Now, there's a din, Rashi says a svara, fellas, Klape Shemaya, there's no overcharge. In other words, Hashem, there's no suffix. Hashem knows what you're paying. So whatever you pay, you pay. So you're going to tell me on hegdish there's a din of bittul mekach. Certainly by a regular basa b'dam, there's a din of bittul mekach. But Mandi Oma Karkois, the one that said, Rabbi Yirmiyah, who said on karka, on hegdish, there would not be a din of bittul mekach. Whatever the deal was done, despite if it's overcharged to 6, the deal would still be on. Okay. Now, where do you see this idea of an overcharge of a 6 by hegdish? This deal is still on. Kiddush Shmuel, the Amar Shmuel, hegdish shavamana, hegdish worth 100, which is a lot, 100 zuz. Shechil al shava pruta, which you're mechal on a shava pruta, a very minimal amount. Mechulul, it's mechulul. So what do you see? Certainly over there, the mistake is more than a sixth, and nonetheless, it's chal, right? Nonetheless, it's chal. So who adin the manda omar that says on karka it's mekach batal, but on hegdish he would using Shmuel's idea that you go ahead and you machalal on such a discrepancy, way more than over a sixth, it still takes off the kedusha who had in a business transaction, such and such. Okay, so let's what's a shaila? We want to know what's the din of being more than a sixth. So we know there's three levels of Ainah. Less than a sixth, exactly a sixth, and more than a sixth. We know that Allah is less than a sixth, is Mechila, the deal is on. We know that we pass like Reb Nosson in the Brisa that by a sixth, the deal is on and you make up the difference. And we know that more than a sixth, the deal is off completely. We wanted to know, we said regarding the halacha of exactly a sixth, Hegdish and Shtaros and Avodim and Karka are out of the ballpark. We want to know, are they out of the ballpark on the next level on more than a sixth, right? So now we're saying that Rabbi Yomi is saying that Rabbi Yochanan, they're still in the ballpark. In other words, they have the same halacha as a regular case, a mekach batul. Rabbi Yomi said by karka. So the difference between Rabbi Yomi and Rabbi Yoina is hegdish. Loi Rabbi Yoina, hegdish certainly is mekach batul. If hegdish is mekach batul, certainly what? Hegdish is mekach batul. However, Rabbi Yomi, hegdish is mekach batul, but hegdish not. Why hegdish not? Because of Shmuel's din, we see that it's mechul on the discrepancy. So right now we have that set in. We're going to ask a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan, on Rabbi Yoina's interpretation of Rabbi Yochanan. Again, Rabbi Yoina's interpretation of Rabbi Yochanan, all we have to know for the next Gemara is that mechach batal, that the deal is off. Good? All we have to know for the next Gemara is Rabbi Yoina's pshat in Rabbi Yochanan, that the deal is off. There's a din of Tmura. If you go ahead, you say, you take an animal of chulin, you take an animal of kachim, and you say that the kedusha of this one should be in this way, you're not supposed to do it, but if you do it, they're both kodesh. If you do it, they're both kodesh. If one of the animals has a mum, and now you're taking that animal of kachim and you're going to put it on chulin, then it's yoytzel l'chulin. That animal, a bal mum, the psulim mikdashim goes to chulin. Let's say that animal of chulin is worth less, so you're heating, it's getting kodesh, so you're cheating hegdish out of a better animal, you're going to make up discrepancy. We'll see. Says the Gemara. Tanan Hasam. Im hoya kodesh balmum, if the animal that you're switching is a balmum, a kodesh balmum, yotzu l'chulin, it goes l'chulin, and v'tzarch laslish damim, and you'd have to make up the difference. If hegdish is going to take a loss, you make a difference. You make up the difference. Rabbi Yochanan, yotzu l'chulin, divar Torah, it goes out l'chulin divar Torah. So in other words, min Torah it's yatsa l'chulin, and you have to go ahead and make up the money. Now, why would you have to? I'm just foreshadowing you the question. The Raisa, according to this, you don't have to make up the money, right? Yatsa l'chulin, it loses its kedusha, but you don't have to make it up mid Raisa. Why don't you have to make it up? Because why? Because mekach is what is on. In other words, when you say yotzel l'chulin, it means it worked. If mekach batal, guys, it shouldn't be yotzel l'chulin. It should stay as is, status quo. The fact that it's yotzel l'chulin, see, it works. The only reason you're giving any money is the rabbanon. That's the kasha. We're going to go through the rest of the Gemara, but that's the kasha again. The kasha. If mekach batal, what you did is nothing. Correct. So I took an animal. I wanted to be mechalel its kedusha. Says Rabbi Yochanan, yotzel l'chulin. But one second. If mekach batal, according to Rabbi Yoina, in Rabbi Yochanan, the mekach batal when you did nothing, why is Rabbi Yochanan hear himself saying that what? That the mekach is mechalel, mashma, it's still on. And it's mashma the differences, and we're going to see now, the question is, what's the discrepancy over here? Is the discrepancy a sixth or more than a sixth? The Gemara is going to prove it's more than a sixth. And therefore that's going to be the kasha. The deal is still on, and therefore the deal is on. So therefore you have to go ahead, Rod, and you have to make it up minat Torah. I mean, the deal really is off, but minat Torah, that it's minat Torah, the deal is it doesn't work. It doesn't work, but it does say yotzel l'chulin. It says it doesn't work, and therefore you have to pay what? What does it mean? After was the dam in the Raisa. Minat Torah. He says, Minat Daraisa, you have to make it up. What's his pshat? I thought I had it. 1 second. I thought I had it. He says the din that you have to make it up is midaraisa. So obviously it's yasa l'chulin, but you have to make up the money. You have to make up the money because we'll say what? It's a mekach tois. And therefore you have to give the money because if it wasn't if the deal is on without any change of guilt, so then you did anything. You in other words, it's yatsa l'chulin, but midaraisa is when you have to make up the money, you saw that what? That the Besin's tiny, it's a mekach tois. That's why you have to give them the money. So now, with that in mind, says the Gemara the following. The Mayaskinon, this discrepancy that you have to make up, if it's a din of a sixth, exactly, you'd have to make it up. But Tanan, so there's no ayna, you don't have to do anything, right? Meaning the deal is there's no din of ayna, it's the deal is on. So why are you making up the money if the deal is on? Ella, it must be bittul mekach. It must be there's a din of bittul mekach, and therefore you have to make up the money. So you Bezdin took a loss over here. Now, over here where it's more than it's bittul mekach, it's more than a sixth. You tell me Rabbi Yochanan says you have to make it up. Why would you have to make up anything? The deal is finished. On Hegdish, we said there's a din of bittul mekach. Bittul mekach means the deal is off. Yet you said over here it's yatsa l'chulin and you have to make it up. Rabbi Yirmi Amar HaKakais, the Rabbi Yochanan, Amri Yaino Ein Lehem, Bittul Mekach Yesh Lehem. So again, what's the kasha? Loit Rabbi Yaina in Rabbi Yochanan. Loit Rabbi Yaina in Rabbi Yochanan. That's Bittul Mekach, the deal is off. Why over here does he say it goes to Chulin and you have to make it up? The deal should be off and that's it completely. It says, it's taka bittul mekach and switch around. The Eipich the Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. And switch around who said what? That the reason why you have to give the full amount, according to, is because is deraisa, since it's not a good chilul. Since it's not a good chilul, why is it not a good chilul? Because mekach batal. In other words, Reish Lakish was never a kasha because he said deraisa you have to give the money. Why do you have to give the full value? Because the mekach's off. So to take off the kachim, you had to give the full amount. So now, like Rabbi Yochanan, you didn't have to give anything. Why didn't you give anything? Because the deal is done. That was the kasha. Now you're switching around and saying Rabbi Yochanan is Reish Lakish, meaning the deal really is done completely. It's not done at all. Mekach batal, like Rabbi Yochanan in Rabbi Yochanan. And now we've gone ahead and answered the kasha because Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says that there is no deal. How do you know there's no deal? Because you have to make up all the money of the chilul. Now, what's the machlokes between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan? Why would, according to one, do you have to give money? Why is it not mechulol? Because the other one is mechulol. The Shmuel, Dama Shmuel, Heg the Shava Mana, Shechilol, Ashava Pruta, mechulol. So the Manda Amar right now, according to Reish Lakish, the way we switch it around, who says that what it's mechulol, and you have to make it up. That's because it was like Shmuel. And Mar is the Shmuel. That's Reish Lakish. Umar less the Shmuel. And Rabbi Yochanan, guys, based on the switch. Why does Rabbi Yochanan say based on the switch? That the deal is off, and therefore you have to pay full value. He would not agree with Shmuel that you can be mechalal on less than the correct amount. Okay, that's one way to answer the kasha of Rabbi Yochanan on Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, let's go through the kasha again one more time. Rabbi Yochanan says that our shaila, whether it's a din of bittul mekach or not, right? There is a din of bittul mekach. In other words, even though kachim is not in the ballpark of the sixth, kachim is in the ballpark of more than the sixth. That's what he said. Now we have a kasha from a Mishnah in Tamura where he says that if you mechalel, the deal is even though the difference is more than a sixth, nonetheless it works, and you have to make it up midrabanon. Midraisa you don't have to make it up because the deal worked. So you see the mekach's not batal. Reish Lakish says you have to give it the raisa because the mekach is batal. So switch around Reish Lakish to Rabbi Yochanan. And now Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says that the mekach is batal, and therefore Allah stimmt according to Rabbi Yochanan in Rabbi Yochanan. And what's the svaras machlokes between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan? Between why why the deal's on or deal's off in Shmuel. Like Shmuel, you can go ahead and redeem Kegdish for less than its value. So that's what you do over here with this animal. But who adin what by Tamura. Okay, so that would be the machlokes between the two of them. Okay, so right now Rav Yonah held serve. Going back to answering the question another way, Iba Yisema, we're going to answer that question another way. Everyone holds a Shmuel. Even the Manom who says that you have to go ahead and give the full amount. He holds like Shmuel. The one who says that you have to give the money is because only b'di'evet, but not lechatchila. And the one who said that you don't have to give the money, midaraisa, only the Rabbanon would hold afilu lechatchila. You could do it. Okay. Ibayas Ema. Another way to answer the original question. Okay, another way to answer the original question. The Mishnah that says Sarach Laslas Damim, the Mishnah in Tamura, right? That says you have to make Damim. It's not speaking by Mekach Batel, guys. It's speaking B'chtei. Guys, outside for a second. The question to Rabbi Yoina, the challenge was in the Mishnah in Tamura. And we said that the case of that the Damim, you'd have to make up the difference because it's speaking in case of Mekach Batel. Because it can't be speaking about a sixth. Because about a sixth, there is no din of Ainah. No, that little level, A, B, and C, the level B, the level is, right? There is none. Therefore, we said the Mishnah Tamura must be speaking level C. That's what we're saying. And therefore, we had a kasha. What about if that Mishnah in Tamura is speaking about level B? Then there is no kasha whatsoever. There's no kasha. Because our whole kasha was if it's level C, more than Ainah. But level B was never a kasha. Because why? Because Hegdish is not in the ballpark of level B. Says the Gemara now that Mishnah Tamura is speaking where the animal was a sixth, exactly a sixth. So Memela, we still have to answer. So Memela, it's not a kasha on Rabbi Yoina at all, because he was discussing level C, not level B. What's the problem saying the Mishnah Tamura is speaking about level B? There is no din of level B of Ainah by Hegdish, correct? Good. Now we're gonna have a Rav Chisda is gonna redo pshat in our Mishnah. In our Mishnah it said there's no din of level B by Shtarais, Avadim, and Karka and Hegdish. Is not speaking level B. It's speaking level A. That even Pachas Mishtus, it's not Mechila. And that's why, and that's why it's not shver the Mishnah Wad in Tamura, because that's speaking about what exactly a sixth, and you can't have a kasha to say if it's exactly a sixth. There's no din of Ainah, because now we're going according to Rav Chisda that the whole din of Ein Ainah is going on level A, but level B, of course, they have. Madach level A, we're subject to Mechila. You're going to say there's no Mechila by Hegdish. Certainly by a sixth, we're going to say what? That the din of Ainah would apply, that the deal is still on, right? So that's a whole different way to explain the Gemara. Ibayis Ema La'olam B'chtei Ainah. The Mishnah in Tamura is speaking B'chtei Ainah, exactly a sixth. V'loi Teipich. And don't switch, then therefore you don't have to switch around Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, because it's not a kasha on Rabbi Yoina, according to Rabbi Yochanan, because he's consistent. That Mekach is bottled more than a sixth. The Rav Chisda k'mifli. And the machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish is in Rav Chisda. The Amar, my ein lehem ainah, when our Mishnah says ein lehem ainah, eina b'toiris ainah. It's not b'toiris and bechlal, meaning that the pachas mishtus doesn't apply. The afilu pachas michdei ainah chayzer. Even less than ainah would return. So we have this teretz is now is that Rabbi Yochanan, he would disagree with Rav Chisda. That with us, whenever meaning that even pachas mishtus, right, really is mechila. So whatever you're returning, guys, is the rabbanon. Guys, I don't have to return anything. Why? Because the difference, the discrepancy in the animal was less than a sixth. It's level A. That I'm returning anything is only midrabanan. Whereas Shmuel, Reish Lakish, he agrees with Rav Chisda. So therefore, and the din of what, a six, less than a six, doesn't apply. So what you're returning is the araisa. So in other words, we just used Rav Chisda to learn pshat in the Mishnah and Tamura, but it's not a kasha whatsoever on Rabbi Yochanan. Let's go back to the Mishnah. Tan Hassam. Let's go back to the Mishnah. That was the kasha. Go back to Amid Aleph, guys. Go to the Toisus Yatza and go down 2 lines. Tan Hassam. Im Haya Kodesh Balmum Yatza Lechulin. It works. But Sarach Lasas Dami. You got to make up the difference. Rabbi Yochanan says Sarach Yatza Lechulin Devat Torah, and Reish Lakish says Midaraisa. Okay, so here was our problem. Like Rabbi Yochanan, if it's going Lechulin and you don't have to make up anything, the matzah is not a mekach tois. Like Reish Lakish, that you have to make it up, it is a mekach tois. So we answered it up, we switched it around. That was one way of dealing with it. We switched it around. Okay. Here's the terrace of the way we're dealing with it now. Continues the Gemara. The Maya Skinon. There's no din of Aina by these things. And the answer is no. Reish Lakish holds like Rav Chisda that there is a din of Aina. Why? Because even less than a sixth is not mechila. And Sarach Laslois Dama means deraisa. Whereas Rabbi Yochanan disagrees with Rav Chisda. And he holds Pachas is the same thing. There's no, it's still mechila. And therefore, since it's mechila, any money you give is going to be the Rabbanan. But it's not a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan who said that what it's speaking about Mekach Tais. Okay, it's not an easy Gemara. I tried. Mesave. Ribis v'ayna lehedyet, vein ribis v'ayna lehegdish. There's a din of ribis and ayna by hedyet, but there's no din of ribis and ayna by hegdish. Okay, we're going to have to see. It's a kashan of Chisda, correct? Why did Rav Chisda say there is a din of ayna by hegdish? So mi alim and masnisan dokminan b'tayres ayna. Is it different than our Mishnah that we said when it said ein loyna and ein loy tayres ayna, that was a chumrah that you don't even have less than a sixth. Achnavi ribis v'din ayna lehedyet, vein ribis v'din ayna lehegdish. Yihachi hainu dekani seif is zechoyim v'hedyim v'hegdish. Right. So this is the chumrah that hedyet has over hegdish. So bishleim, you're going to tell me there's a din of ayna by hedyet and not by hegdish. That's a chumrah. But if you're going to tell me there's no din of ayna that even pachas meshtus goes back, so l'chayr it's a chumrah that hegdish has over hedyet. Says the Gemara ribis. That's going on ribis. It's going on ribis. It's not going what? It's not going on ayna. So it says the Gemara listening nami is a chumrah behegdish and behedyet ayna. Says the Gemara. So let's say this is the chumrah that hegdish has over hedyet on ayna. That by ayna that by hedyet less than a sixth is moichel. By hegdish less than a sixth is not. So let's list that as a chumrah. Says Hachi Hashta. Bishleim is a chumrah behedyet behegdish besuloi. Again, this is the only chumrah they have is ribis. That's very good. Hegdish is a whole litany of chumras. So there's no reason to list this one more. Now, Fred Gemara, ribis the hegdish hechidami. Where do you find the case of ribis of hegdish? Where do you find the case of ribis of hegdish? Ilema the oisvei gizbor meya b'meya v'esrim. The gizbor took money of hegdish. He went ahead and he did ribis ketzusa deraisa. He lent 100 for 120. Now, if the money is hegdish, guys, and he takes that money and he uses it, he's moel behegdish. As soon as he's moel behegdish, the money goes l'chulin. Of course, there's a din of ribis there. That can't be the case of ribis hegdish. But like moel gizbar, the gizbar is moel by yotzing l'chulin, by using it, leaving rishus of hegdish. The kima shemal hagizbar yotzim yoysav l'chulin, b'avi lehedyet. So that can't, and it's also to take ribis. So that can't be the case of ribis. Okay, what's the case of ribis? Let's introduce you to, guys, one of the things we're going to see, futures contracts. You go ahead, if the price is not out on the value of something, and you go ahead, let's say, I'm going to give you four bushels for $1, right? And it comes out, the guy gives you the $1, and a few months later it comes out, but it's 3 bushels $1. It went up in price, right? That's ribis, because you went ahead and at the time for waiting the money you having that money in your possession during that period of time before there was an amount out, right? Now you're gaining that extra one. So that's the ribis derabanan that we'll see. So that's the scenario that does not exist in the world of Hedyet, but it does exist in the world of Hegdish, and that means ein ribis lehegdish, that you could go do futures contract before the price comes out. There's the Gemara. You took a futures contract to go ahead and provide 4 sa for zuz. And now it went up in price because a zuz will only buy you 3, which is not acceptable in Hedyet. Kedetanya. A person accepts upon himself to provide a futures contract for Amdu Mishalish, Mesapik me Arba Mishalish. Amdu me Arba is going to provide 4 for 3, and it went up to 4, and got cheaper. Mesapik me Arba Shehegdish al Yoina. It's going to always go ahead. The share of Hegdish will get the upper hand. Whichever one works better for Hegdish, they'll always pay the cheaper price. So there, that's the case of that would not be permitted for a hedyot to do. That would be permitted for a hegdish to do. That would be the case of ribis of hegdish. A much more exotic case is our papa's case. The papa hacha b'ma'avnei binyan hamusuros legizbar askiran kiddush shmuel dam shmuel boydin b'chol v'akach makdishin. Okay, outside. You want to go ahead and be a good Joe. You want to be part of the binyan Beis Hamikdash. You literally lay the cornerstone. You purchase a stone, you give it to Hegdish, you want it to be built into the Beis Hamikdash. At that point in time, it's not going to be Kodesh. At that point, why? Because we're worried in the construction, you may use it, you may sit on it, you may take shade in it for some reason. And therefore, in order to avoid that, it only becomes Hegdish when it's firmly in place in the binyan itself. So it belongs to Hegdish, but it's not Kodesh. If the Gizba would lend out that stone at a higher price, that would be the case of ribis, that would be okay. Again, the problem was lending out was the problem of Mila. We've dealt with the Me'ila problem by saying it's not Hegdish Linyan Mila. It's only Hegdish in name, but it's not Din Mila because, again, you might sit on it and so forth. That would be the case. So Yaitz Midvarenu, okay. In our Mishnah, we said, we just deal with the Din of Ainah. We said, in addition, you would not pay. Let's look back to the Mishnah a second on Nun Vav. Let's look back to the Mishnah on Nun Vav for a second. There's no kefil by avodim shtaris karka and hegdish. Lo tashlumi abar v'chamisha. If it's a shar or a chamor of hegdish, shecht and sell it. There's no din of 4 or 5. Shemechinam ein nishba. Shemechinam does not swear. We said whether he's chayv pshi al smasik was machlokes, and Neisasach will not pay for gneva aveda. So what's the sources for these things? What are the sources for this thing? So we're familiar with the concept of klalu pratu klal. The Torah says a rule. It says we have a rule. What defines that rule is the prat, that specific thing, and then we have another klal after that prat to say not only that specific thing, but anything similar to that specific thing. That would be a klalu pratu klal. With that in mind, tashlumin kefel minani mili, because the pasuk says no tashlumin kefel, because the pasuk says I'll call the pesha, I'll show a chamor al salma, anything that he's negligent. This is me by the shemachinam. On the shor chamor al salma is a garment. I'll call aveda asher yom aki uzeh. Adel him yavad vashneim. You go to the dayan asher yashino lehim yishalom shneim leyehu. This was the case of tayin tainus ganif. He's going to pay kefel. But we're going to learn out. We saw in Meruba. Not only you learn out tayin tainus ganif for huadin ganif atzmai. Minani mili tanabanan. I'll call them a pesha klal. I'll shor a chamor al salma prat. I call aveda sheyoma chos v'klal. Kal pratu klal liatudan kena prat. Ma prat mefurish dov and metalto v'gufay mamin. Just like the prat, something that's movable and it itself is money. Af kol dov and metalto v'gufay mamin would be b'chal kefil. Yotza karkos, which is not shein metaltalin. Yotza avodim shokus lekarka b'snachalta v'som levnech lachrechem. Yotzu shtoris shafal pisha metaltalin and gufay mamin. Like remember they cause you it's a raya b'alma. Hekdesh is amakra re'ehu. It says re'ehu v'lei hekdesh, right? It says yishalom shnaim l're'ehu to to your friend, below hegdish. So that takes care of kefil. Not abar v'chamisha, because once you're at a kefil, you can't have avachamisha, because you need 4 or 5, not 2 or 3. My time with tashlum idal heyam rachman of tashlum shalish v'arba, not 3 or 4, right? It's got to be 4 or 5, not 3 or 4. Shemachinam ain't a nishba. How do you know Shemachinam does not swear on that? Nani mili. Again, similar limud. Ki tenishal rayeo klal kesef kelim prat lishmar because of a klal pratu klali atudon el kena prat ma prat mefurish davar metaltal gufay moment kesef kelim af kol davar metaltal gufay moment yatsu karkois shein metaltalin yatsu avodim shukas the karkois yatsu shorish af b'shem metaltalin en gufay moment hekdeshes amakro rayeo v'loy shel hegdish. Vaysesacha ein mishalem minani mili tan rabbanon. See, this is the kapara for the first part of the daf, guys. Klal, chamor reshor se prat, b'chol behem malishmar chazal klal, kalu pratu klali atadan el kena prat. Ma prat mefurish davar metaltal gufay mamin, av kol davar metaltal gufay mamin. Yatz kakroy shein metaltlin, yatz avodim shokish the karkos, yatz shtorish af bish metaltlin en gufay mamin. Hekdeshay samakro re'eu, v'loy re'eu shel hegdish. Okay, that concludes the staff, and Bez Hashem will say a kapitel for Hillam.